One, Tyler Reddick, 2 for 2 to open up 2026. 2311 Racing is back in victory lane, and Michael Jordan is getting more airtime on Fox than he got with the NBA partner network that he signed a deal with at the start of this season. 2, Can You Take Me Higher? Sheldon Creed, finally, after 15 runner-up finishes, has parked it in NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series victory lane at Atlanta. And 3, Kyle Busch for the third consecutive time at the now Echo Park Speedway and 9th overall has parked his truck in victory lane. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
Yes!
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Motorsport Monday with me, Ben Schneider, and my co-host, Brandon Crosland. Brandon, how are you doing tonight? I would have brought that out anyway, like I did last year. It's always a miracle every time Kyle Busch wins a truck race, right? But felt extra special, extra fitting to do that after what our men's hockey team did yesterday at the end of a Winter Olympics. But how are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
Doing wonderful, and good to see you too, Ben. Good to see everyone watching another Motorsport Monday here on the Ben Schneider YouTube channel. And man, what a week we've had, and congratulations Team USA on the men's and women's side for hockey getting the gold. Of course, Norway took the most gold medals this year, but USA getting a lot of hardware to bring back home to the States. But looking here at NASCAR, we've got a lot to talk about from Atlanta Echo Park Speedway, and just glad you're here on Motorsport Monday with us.
Yes, 12 gold medals, a record for Team USA at one Winter Olympics. 8 of those 12 won by women, actually, as well. So they certainly carried the medal count for Team USA. Well done to them. Alyssa Liu, I think the biggest superstar coming out of the games was what she did in figure skating. Great to see Michaela Schifrin bring back some hardware again. I know she had a very tough Beijing Olympics, and great performances all around. And I will talk about Team USA and the hockey teams, both our men's and women's, a little bit later when we kind of shoot the breeze here after our 3 main segments. But good to see our friend Luis Torres in the chat here as well. I just realized the Creed hat is a numbered set. That's on our thumbnail from a night here. It looks like it's in the 100s of about 300, maybe not quite 400 there. I don't know. The resolution isn't quite strong enough for me to be able to tell exactly what that says there on his hat, but you can tell it is definitely limited edition that he was handed in victory lane there. So again, all congratulations to Sheldon Creed, a long time coming. Started to wonder if he was ever going to break through and visit victory lane in that series. He's done it, and we'll get into that here a little bit later.
Yeah, Louise, they actually meant that hat to be for Austin Hill, but fate had other plans.
Yes, and also on, a couple other things before we get started, actually. Number one, you're in the Northeast, you're already aware. We got another foot and a half, 2 feet of snow, depending on where you live. And I was thinking to myself, this will actually be great because, we all had off of work today. The roads have been quiet. Obviously, nobody wants to go anywhere. So there's not going to be very many noises outside of my apartment. No cars, revving their engines or anything. I forgot that snowplows are a thing here, and they're coming through right now. So if you hear some background
noise, just barely hear it, I think we'll be okay.
We'll be okay here. I'll try to mute myself as well when when Brandon's talking here, if they come by again, if I hear them. Also, this is not a sponsored stream here, but I do want to point out we do have a referral process for this show with our friends over at at StreamYard. Obviously, I went ahead and purchased the middle tier plan here, but if you want to help support the show and you are also looking for some equipment or a way, a streaming platform, I guess you could say, to start your own show like this or anything like that, if you need the StreamYard services for any particular reason, we have a referral link down in the description of this video, and it helps both of us out because you'll save $10 on your first month or first annual purchase or whatever you decide to go with. And we also get $25 in credit. So when our deal renews at the start of next year, it'll save us a little bit of money as well. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down in the video description to check out StreamYard if you have any interest in that product as well. So with that, let's jump right into it here. Obviously, the big story of the weekend coming out of the Cup Series, Tyler Reddick going 2 for 2 with a car that didn't even have a right front bumper or panel here, quarter panel or fender is the word I'm looking for. Sorry,
Right.
getting
Yeah.
through. Great start to the show here tonight, but sorry, right front fender ripped off the car from damage previously in the race, but still found a way to come through and score his second consecutive victory, open up 2026. The first time that has happened since Matt Kenseth did it in 2009 and Jeff Gordon before him in 1997. Of course, that's very good company. Those two are both Hall of Famers. Now, didn't work out too well for Matt because he finished, I believe he might have actually been the last place finisher the next week in Las Vegas. I believe he had an engine let go as he was going for 3 in a row to start the season. So hopefully it goes a little bit better for Reddick this week in Dakota. But Brandon, what were your thoughts on seeing what Tyler Reddick was able to accomplish and seeing 2311 after everything that they went through in the offseason start this year off as strong as they have, 2 for 2 with Tyler Reddick. Bubba Wallace once again led a bunch of laps. He was in the mix there at the end. Very strong start to the season for that game.
It sure is, and it was surprising to me to start off with, as I'm sure it is for a lot of you watching on Sunday evening. Yeah, Tyler Reddick going back to back, joining some elite company there. You mentioned Matt Kenseth in 2009, Jeff Gordon 97. Hadn't been done in a while, but you go back to Jeff Gordon's 1997 season. You see how that turned out for him after he won the first 2 of the season, and also Steve Letarte mentioned in the official NASCAR post-race podcast, Inside the Race, I believe it's called, about he still has some stuff from that 1997 season when he was a part of that crew at Hendrick Motorsports, so he remembers that well. And then before that, I put in our notes here, David Pearson in 1976 on the nation's 200th anniversary was whenever he got that done in the first 2 races of the year. So kind of one of those weird statistical things where Tyler Reddick also does the same thing in another milestone in the United States' years of being a nation. But before that, you go to Bob Wellborn in 1959, and then Brock might get me if I mispronounce this, Marvin Punch, I think, 1957. I think someone pronounced it as Punch. He was like, Punch? But Marvin in 57, the first one to do it. Anyway, Atlanta is getting the eye of a lot more race fans each passing year because more of that hot Georgia sun keeps getting laid on the asphalt every summer. And looking back to 2022 and 23, it was like, yeah, when William Byron got that, I guess some might call it a fluke win at the end of the race. We're kind of thinking, oh, what kind of Frankenstein did they do to Atlanta Motor Speedway? And I remember talking like that on this show, on our previous show after that race. But getting here to the summer race of, well, actually the 3-wide finish that was the closest finish in NASCAR Cup Series history until it was broken again at Kansas in 24, and then the
3-wide split between the top 3 there. Yeah,
right, yeah. And then Chase winning the summer race on they opened up the coverage on TNT last year. I think that started to show some of the tires having to deal with grip at Atlanta again. But this year, it feels like Daytona and Talladega used to feel race pace wise and how the field is spread around. But this hybrid, it works in such a way where you see it whenever they get out of the car. These drivers are just plumb exhausted, and it's kind of like that exhaustion you see when they get out from Bristol, because it's just constant, driver awareness, constant voice in your ear. They're constantly around each other, and when you come into the kind of the quad oval or the quad kink there at the start finish line, it's kind of like that realignment of where you are in the draft, and that's got to be just nerve-wracking lap after lap. But man, I really enjoyed the race. A lot more. I wish Daytona raced like that. I think that's the opinion that you'll find a lot of race fans have after that. I wish we could have a race play out like that. There was a lot of different snaps off of turn 4 that were just single car spins, and there was. But overall, the weekend as a whole, man, it went really well. we'll get to some of those other ones later, but for the Cup race, going into double overtime, not, wish it didn't have to come down to that, but I think this is one of those, last week at Daytona and this week, last week didn't go to overtime, but here at Atlanta, it's like overtime, like working for us instead of against us. I think it turned out for the good instead of if we had just ended it under yellow. But Tyler Reddick going back to back, and 23-11 on a really good foot to start off the year. They're gonna have to have some road course prowess coming up at Circuit of the Americas, but that's going to be a different story entirely.
Yeah, well, I think Reddick won there a few years ago. I think Kurt Busch was in the booth for that, seeing his former car win at that track. So, obviously we talked about, and I think Bubba Wallace has gotten a lot better. Obviously, he struggled early in his career on the road courses, but I think he's kind of honed his craft a little bit as well over the last couple of years. So we'll see how well he can continue moving forward here. Another tough weekend for Riley Herbst, it must be said. We can't forget about the third 23-11 car, but unfortunate result for 35 this weekend. And it's a shame because he did, it was a little bit controversial at the end, what happened with Brad Keselowski in the last wreck there, but
it was like 23-11 forget sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, even they, I think sometimes, I don't know if Michael Jordan mentioned him even once during his interviews. And by the way, I mentioned it a little bit during the opener, but if you're an NBA fan, you probably remember it was a big deal when NBC came back to the sport this year to broadcast NBA games and announced that Michael Jordan would be an on-air contributor or an analyst of some sort, signing what was reported to be something like a $20 million deal there. Well, they've just been showing the same interview, different parts of the same interview with Mike Tirico all throughout the 2025-26 season here. Awful Announcing put this out on Twitter this morning. We're seeing more of Michael Jordan on Fox NASCAR coverage than the NBA on NBC. I think that's true. After the first 2 weeks of the season, their cars visiting Victory Lane on both of those occasions. He's been at the track both times. He's obviously very serious about his Cup Series ownership and what happened, obviously, with the lawsuit at the end of last season. It's kind of amusing that we're seeing him more on Fox for a team that he owns than we are on the network where he's supposed to be a paid contributor here. I don't know. I think he maybe got the better of NBC in those negotiations because we really only have seen that one email or that one email. What am I saying? Interview with Tirico there. And that's basically been it.
Hey, I love it. He's taking home a nice check, and also I think NASCAR fans are getting the benefit of it by having a lot more Michael Jordan in our race coverage, and I think it helps the sport too because let's be real. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, we may not have a couple of these hits on SportsCenter, or where they have Tyler Reddick come up to ESPN in Connecticut and ask him about the 500. When's the last time that happened?
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith was interviewing Tyler Reddick on his show this past week.
Yeah, because crazy. Michael Jordan is associated with him, I think, has the biggest pull.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we move on now to talk about the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. I'm going to see how many times I can get it right before I get it wrong again. I know I'm going to drop the cable internet provider's name at some point once again here, but I will do my best. How far can we get into the
Spectrum, right? Spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Sheldon Creed finally breaking through. You began to wonder if it was ever going to happen. 138 starts, 15 runner-up finishes. Finally got to the checkered flag. It looked on the final lap there like we were once again going to get yet another Austin Hill, Atlanta Echo Park Super Speedway drafting track victory. But Ross Chastain, I think for once, was thanked by fans for having a car go off of his front bumper there. In all seriousness, all credit to Austin Hill. That was an incredible save. Totally thought that he was going to spin back up into traffic and there was going to be a huge wreck there in the last lap. But somehow I think still brought the car home just outside of a top 10 result there. And unfortunately for him, fell short of repeating, much like Tyler Reddick did, going 2 for 2 to start the year. But Sheldon Creed was right there as the seas kind of parted for him. For once, the beneficiary of some good fortune, and he's finally a winner. in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Brandon, what is your reaction to Sheldon Creed finally visiting victory lane?
He finally did it, and it's all a collective sigh of relief. And Ross Chastain, Jordan Anderson Racing doing what he did there into turn 3, kind of a racing deal to push him like that. Austin Hill just says that's Ross Chastain doing Ross Chastain things, but Sheldon Creed being in the right place, and he's had to endure 138 starts, 15 second place finishes. The bridesmaid, but never the bride until this race right here. And yeah, we all had the need for Creed, and he was able to deliver at Echo Park Speedway finally after after being at Richard Childress Racing and having that whole deal with being Austin Hill's teammate and some of the things that were said around the team itself. I can just remember Nashville Super Speedway last year. He was also a part of that, either second or third, just a position short or two. And, that constant just, we'll get it next time. Just the look of disappointment, and finally can get that off of his back. And it can't be understated how much that can do for a driver once they get that first victory off their back. And maybe he can finally go out there and have some more confidence and some courage that, yes, I've been here before, I can do it. And it's such a good thing there for also, let's not diminish, Ben, how big this is for Haas Factory Team too. I mean, you talk about some trials and tribulations, switching from Ford to Chevrolet. They don't look right to the trained eye. We think that the Haas equipment and Audible and all these other sponsors, they go on the Ford Mustang body, but it's taken some adjustment for the eyes. But switching to manufacturer, that takes a lot of risk. And Haas Factory Team, not exactly the most successful here after having to part ways with the Stewart part of Stewart Haas Racing. Getting through all that re-identity, if that's even a phrase, but. This is a great start for them too. Hopefully Sam Mayer can pick up in tow.
Yeah, huge deal for both driver and team, like you were saying. I think 100%. Yeah, and it can't be understated. I think the mental toll that Sheldon Creed would have been going through here, just to have come so close so many times and have found a way to lose one in 15 different possible ways here. I mean, you really would have to start wondering, what more do you have to do to finally break through and get one of these checkered flags here? And it's not like he doesn't know how to win. I mean, he's a Truck Series champion. He's an ARCA champion. Has won plenty of races in those divisions, but could never quite find the checkered flag in this series here. The former Xfinity Series, now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And again, for Haas Factory as well, I think if they can take this momentum, and we've seen Sam Mayer have some strong runs as well. It's unfortunate what happened after he congratulated his teammate and drove back through across the grass, just completely ripped the front end of a car off of it. Obviously, it rained quite heavily in Atlanta on Saturday, so the grass, I'm sure, was still a lot heavier than it even normally is. So unfortunate the damage that caused there. But yeah, I mean, I think for the team as well, if they can channel this energy and that momentum, and that can only help Sheldon Creed out even further. And like you said, Brandon, I mean, getting over the initial hump is often the biggest challenge. Now that he's gotten one, we'll see how many of these he can rack off in 2026. Maybe even position himself well with the new Chase and Championship format. Obviously, we're not talking about playoffs. It's not like we're having that conversation today about how Sheldon doesn't have to worry about that anymore because he's already locked himself in. It's a new championship format this year, and I think you're seeing it on the minds of some drivers, across all three series, racing a little bit differently than they would have in years past here with the new championship format. But if Sheldon Creed can continue this momentum and rack off some wins and good finishes otherwise, certainly put himself in good position for the back half of this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can do wonders just getting that first victory.
All right. Well, somebody who is getting far from his first victory here. We move on now to the Craftsman Truck Series race. And yes, very fitting. Miraculous victory here. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but shocking win. I don't think anybody saw coming. Kyle Busch has won a Truck Series race with Spire Motorsports at Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. Truly remarkable stuff here. And he had his teammate, Spire teammate, Truck Series teammate, maybe future Cup teammate. Those rumors starting to swirl here, I think, as well. Carson Hocevar to thank for that. And he continues his streak of having won at least one race every year in one of NASCAR's top 3 divisions since 2004. It's his 9th total Truck Series win in Atlanta and 3rd in a row. Brandon, what was your reaction to Kyle Busch doing what he does best, his 68th career victory in the Truck Series?
Yeah, not surprised. I really thought Ben Rhodes had it there for a while. The rain was, the impending inclement weather was a little annoying that they had to bring it down to a timer, but understandable. Practicing qualifying for Cup was canceled with that, but it brought him down to just you got till 4:20 to get this done, and so that's when the white flag came out. Fair enough. That's the protocol. It's in the rule book, but yeah, I really thought Ben Rhodes had it, or one of the Thor Sport drivers would have been able to take it. I think Jake Garcia got a good little run towards the end of it too. There were some comers and goers, but yeah, the trucks really were able to single file out, or stay double wide for a lot of that race, and stay kind of. Maybe I dozed out through some of it. I don't know, but I felt like it was one of the more tame of the 3 of the weekend. But Kyle Busch able to find his way to victory lane. Who would have guessed? 9th total, third consecutive. But he knows, which is why that rumor is so intriguing, because the whole Spire rumor, because this is where I come to win. So why can't I do this with Richard Childress Racing? What's wrong with the number 8? Why can't we get things working there? And he immediately got out and said, "Thank you, Carson Hocevar," which he's been making headlines of his own. And Kyle Petty got that hot take on the podcast, saying that he's the next phenom. Get on the bandwagon while you can. I agree, but Kyle Busch, he's still got the wins in trucks, and we got more to come on that too. But it's very interesting how successful he still is here with the trucks and Spire Motorsports. Just glad that he's able to keep that streak alive that's been going for him, Ben, in the top national series since 2004. His streak with the Cup Series came to an end. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done a while ago, but maybe he can get it this year. I think Circuit of the Americas is a great option of looking back from last year.
Yeah, looked very strong there last year, 100%. We'll come back to Kyle Busch here in just a moment. I want to circle back to that, but Brandon, you brought it up, actually. I want to get your thoughts on this before we move on here. What did you make of NASCAR's decision with the weather, with the fact that the O'Reilly race was taking place right after, and CW sounded like they didn't want to move from their time slot? FS1 had to get it in before, not just before 5 p.m., obviously, but also have enough time to get the trucks out of there and the O'Reilly cars onto the grid. There's a lot of logistics I think the fan base doesn't necessarily understand unless you've been there and seen the traveling circus and the logistics that it all takes there. But nonetheless, fans were certainly, I think it even caught Jeff Gluck by surprise. He said, I think this was the best of both worlds kind of scenario, and got a lot of pushback for that take. And think some people were even accusing him of being part of like the state media shilling for NASCAR, which I think is a little ridiculous. But what was your take on the decision that was ultimately made there?
Well, I can't speak for it live as it was happening, because I was in 2 basketball broadcasts as it was happening live. So I unfortunately had to go back on DVR to watch the truck and O'Reilly races. But so the truck race, the recordings they got really funky. They kind of messed up for me for some reason or another. But that's besides the point. So I had no idea about the whole rain thing going on that had already happened throughout the day. But that NASCAR is really on top of those sort of things. They look way ahead and make plans for all the things that could be possible. And I think I agree with Jeff Gluck there that that's probably the best of all scenarios. And I think the proof that it was the best possible choice is because, I mean, we got the O'Reilly race in later on that day, and, you know, practice and qualifying for Cup just had to be abandoned, and you just go with the finishing order from the Daytona 500. And I think it all worked out pretty well. It's better than, you know, a big flood mess at the Chicago Street Course for the then Xfinity Series race there, where Cole Custer had to maybe lead 2 laps and then take the win because it was all drenched.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand fans who are upset that they paid a ticket for a full race and feel like they got sold short a little bit there with the shortened race there. And I get the frustration, but what I don't get is, you know, there were some fans that were saying, you know, because NASCAR had said the contingency plan was maybe going to be to run a triple header on the following day and have I think it would have been like the truck race first and then Cup and then O'Reilly under the lights, or flip O'Reilly and trucks, or some sort of arrangement like that to have 3 races in one day. And
that would have been nice for the fans.
Yeah,
but
it would have been fun to have racing going on all day, I suppose. But what about the fans of a track that bought a ticket for Saturday? They came to the track on Saturday that were already there.
Right.
That certainly want to see a race before they have to go home, and maybe they can't come back Sunday. Maybe they have prior commitments and wouldn't be able to return to the track there. So I think that has to be weighed in that decision that's made too. I do sometimes wish that NASCAR would put their foot down a little harder and say, this is when we're running the race, and TV networks, if you want to broadcast it, you know, you're free to do so. If not, we can find another partner, which I know is a lot easier said than done here, but
contracts, man.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly just like these 3 p.m. start times so that they can finish in prime time and get a bigger audience for the finish of the race, which you saw at Daytona this year. And thankfully, they were willing to move it up an hour so that we sacrificed maybe a slightly bigger primetime number to get the race in because, again, we had weather coming through there as well. But, yeah, I mean, again, I understand the frustration. I don't want to minimize the fans' complaints, but there were some that were really they seemed more angry about it than us anti-playoff fans were at the end of Phoenix last year. And there were a lot bigger things to worry about than the fact that I don't even know how many laps it was, maybe 10 or so laps that we didn't get in when the truck race was because you're right, Brandon. It was a relatively tame drafting track truck series race by truck series standards. So we were able to get most of it in. I think it's yet another reason why the stage cautions need to go. Because goodness knows how much time that wasted there.
Especially at drafting tracks. I mean, if you can't take it away everywhere, drafting tracks and road courses would be fantastic.
100%. Totally agree.
But one thing's for sure though, when I never want to be NASCAR officials when they have to make decisions like that, because you're always going to get the blame, and every single time you have to make a decision like that, I guarantee 100% not everyone can be happy, and that's just the way it is. Someone has to make that gets paid the big bucks has to make the big foot down decisions and say sorry. You know, maybe you can do something like they did with Bowman Gray. Here's a 25% discount to your next ticket or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Kyle Busch here a little bit more. Obviously, like I mentioned, his truck series dominance is in some ways unrivaled. Nobody's ever won more races than him, 68 and counting. He'll have a few more starts this year, and has mentioned in the past that he maybe wants to race for a championship, wants to race with Brexton once Brexton comes into the series. This is a take from a couple of weeks ago before the season started, preseason predictions from our former colleague at the Grid Network, Alex, on the Gay Racing Podcast. They had Eric Estep on. They were talking about predictions for 2026. This was his hot take, his hot prediction on what Kyle Busch might decide to do when the 2026 season wraps up. Take a listen to this.
My prediction is that Kyle Busch is going to retire at the end of the year from Cup.
Ooh. I was not expecting you to say, what? That actually caught me. What? Wait.
Wow.
I mean,
I know he had like this game plan. He's going to wait for Brexton, but I think he's going to go to trucks. I think he's just like, I'm not having fun. Ooh. I want to go win races, and in trucks I can do that. I can go win a truck championship before Brexton turns 16. We can share the car at that point. He's going to do a little bit earlier than he said he was going to.
And it should be noted as well, Kyle Busch would be the first to have championships in all three of NASCAR's national touring divisions. So, Brandon, you mentioned it, obviously, and we saw it again on Sunday. Kyle was running, I think, 13th of a time. He ended up crashing out. It has not been, aside from that first year when he won 3 races, and we thought, okay, maybe RCR is turning a corner. I know Austin Dillon has those 2 Richmond wins, but it hasn't been going too well for him, and it hasn't been going too well on the 8 side either for RCR's Cup program. Of course, they won Xfinity Championship with Jesse Love last year. Austin Hill's been winning so many of these drafting track races, but their Cup program does not seem to have what it takes right now to give Kyle the opportunity to compete for a Cup championship. Should he take a step back and say, you know what, I'm only going to continue to get older from here. I might as well go chase that truck championship now. Clearly, I can still win in this series. Is that an idea that he maybe should consider for 2027?
It's making more and more sense. And you look, Kyle Busch was upset with the change from playoffs to the chase because he knows full well that doesn't really reward a team that doesn't consistently perform week in and week out and have consistent results in the top pecking order. And he knew full well that's not the team that he's a part of. And getting into the first 2 races of this year, he's seeing, oh boy, it's still in a really rough spot, especially for me here at the 8 camp. And, we've been through crew chiefs. We've, been through, what can we do to make this situation better? But yeah, time is ticking for Kyle Busch, whether we like it or not. And, Brexton's in the pipeline, and I cannot wait to see that young man's career. And we got another young man to talk about too before the show's over with. But this might be, see how the rest of this year shakes out. But if you're way out of the top 10 come chase time, and if you have a lot more DNFs between now and then, I might consider, okay, weigh my options. Where's my contract at? Let's go to Spire and trucks, stay on Team Chevrolet, and let's go, chase a trophy, because he can definitely do it with Spire Motorsports in the truck series. And we mentioned it before, you and I as a pair, not on this show, but how cool it would be to see Kyle Busch, just go full time in the truck series, give it your all, go for the championship there, and go make history, because you could definitely ride out into the sunset there. And you got what more do you have to prove in Cup besides the Daytona 500? You can still keep running those, but what more do you have to prove? I'm sure Spire can get you a Daytona 500 ride when it rolls around, but or maybe no, never mind. I was thinking other places, but those are different manufacturers. But it makes sense to me if things don't get better from here.
Yeah, well, and even RCR has the 33 that they bring out for us.
Right.
Hill from time to time. I think feel like Ty Dillon maybe got in that car once or twice as well. So they've run a third open entry at times. So yeah, I'm sure Kyle would have no problem. Beard Motorsports, I'm sure would love to have him. With all due respect to Anthony Alfredo, if Kyle Busch becomes available, I'm sure.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, there would be no shortage of teams offering him a seat for one off there if he.
No shortage of sponsors for Beard Motorsports.
Yeah, for sure. But again, those are the 2 things that Kyle Busch still has to win in this sport that he hasn't. It's a Daytona 500, and it's a Truck Series championship. Now, I think the Daytona 500 would do a lot more for his legacy than the Truck Series championship. But if you win the Truck championship, you're the first to have all 3, right? And I don't. Again, his teammate Austin Dillon could technically be the first to do that as well this season if they can turn their Cup program around. But I don't. Again, just we're what this is Austin Dillon's. I think 13th full-time Cup season. I haven't seen anything that says to me Austin Dillon's a Cup champion in waiting here.
Yeah.
And even if he were, I think Kyle Busch is a 2-time Cup champion. You've seen how well he's performed the last couple of years also. So that program, I think, is not anywhere near where it needs to be for me to say, okay, they've got a shot at making history on the Cup Series side of things. Brad Keselowski's back in ownership. He could maybe restart his Truck Series program or get Roush's help to have a program like that, he could do that. Kevin Harvick, I suppose, is in a position to do that. Martin Truex Jr. is as well. But I think when you look at who has raced that series most often and been most dominant in that series, I think the best chance that you have, I mean, I guess Corey Heim would be the other one if he had gotten a full-time O'Reilly ride this year, but that seems to be the only series that he's not racing, at least right now at this moment. He's going to be part-time across all three. So I think the best chance that you have is Kyle Busch dropping back down. We've thought for years that it would be with his own team, but now Spire has the assets and kind of spirit of his old team that they acquired a couple of years ago. So I guess it would kind of be a homecoming in that sense for him. I'm sure there's a lot of the same personnel and crew over there. Why not go try to make history and go see how many wins you can rack off? I mean, we talked on the Encore show a couple of years ago that he was like, his last 30 truck starts, there were 27 top 3 finishes or top 2 finishes, some ridiculous stat and number. And obviously that's spread out across the 5 tracks that he's cherry picking for his schedule, the tracks that he wants to run the most and just go have fun with. Be interesting to see if he could hold that over a full season. But then again, Corey Heim had a darn near 50% win rate in the truck series last year. Who's to say Kyle Busch couldn't go out and do something like that? So
yeah, imagine if he wasn't a cup leacher, he'd stomp the field as a regular.
Yeah,
I think we appreciate that a lot more from time to time when it's you're actually a part of the field.
Yeah, and I think back to when I started following the sport as a kid, and what Kyle was doing in 2008. There was a time, I think after race 2 or 3 in the season, where he was leading all 3 standings. You could run unlimited back then. You didn't have to shoot. Now it got to, and we have it coming up this weekend, right? The trucks are in St. Pete on Saturday. O'Reilly is in Coda on Saturday. So there's no way you could run. But I mean, maybe you could start the St. Pete trucks race and then hop on a jet if the Coda O'Reilly race starts at like 4 p.m. and maybe your co-driver could finish and get you the points.
Yeah, unless you got Elon's special Tesla that can go 900 miles an hour, you're not getting there.
Yeah, they're not. The way these races are scheduled, sometimes there's no way you could run full time and race for all 3 championships. But for a little while, it was like, well, let's see how far Kyle can take this year. He's just going to run every race, as many races as possible. I mean, and that hasn't changed in the last 16 years. The guy, or 18 years, I guess now. I can't do I'm trying to do my math here. It's 2026, right? 6 minus 8 is 26 minus 8 is 18. It's been 18 years since 2008, which is kind of crazy to think about, but that hasn't changed in the last 18 years. We know Kyle loves to race just as much as he did back then. And I think it's a very interesting opportunity, unique opportunity that he has. And again, aside from the Daytona 500, it would be the only other possible thing that you could conceive that he hasn't potentially accomplished yet. I mean, I guess maybe you could say winning at every track on the Cup Series schedule, which he was able to say for about half of a year before we brought the Roval in, and now we change the schedule so much every year, but I don't think that's nearly as feasible as it used to be. But point being, he has accomplished so much. I think this is one of the only other things that he would have left to check off of his list here. We have a comment here from Sasquatch Department. Why I guess you're asking why would he do that? He's won so much over the 3 series.
Why? Why? He's won so much. Yeah.
Well, he hasn't won the championship. I think that's the thing. And listen, again, I always try to make this point. We have the conversation about leeches too. Like nobody's been more critical of NASCAR, and they opened up the restrictions again this year to let them do even more. It's not just Kyle. I don't like it when Kyle Larson gets in the 17 Hendrick car here, or we've seen there were Cup drivers doing a rotation in the Big Machine 48 a couple of years ago. It's Joe Gibbs has had some of his Cup stars. Like, it's not just a Kyle Busch problem.
Yeah, no one dislikes it more than him.
Yeah, well, Brock Beard maybe, but
maybe
I don't like seeing Cup guys race in the lower divisions and take points and wins away from those drivers. But if the Cup guy says, I'm going to become one of those drivers, hello, AJ Allmendinger, right? Kind of reinvented his entire career. Justin Allgaier spent 2 years in Cup and then decided, hey, I've got this chance to go race for Junior's team in Xfinity at the time. Now O'Reilly. Keep getting it right. And he's been there ever since.
We got a bucket. We got a bucket.
I'm trying. So I think that's completely different. If you want to go back and try to reinvent your career, Elliott Sadler did that in the beginning of the 2010s, right?
Right.
That to me is not a full-time. Kyle Busch wouldn't be the full-time Cup guy, doing that anymore. If he's saying trucks is my dedicated series, this is where I'm earning points, and I'm going to go race for a championship here. I would have no problem with that. In fact, I would welcome it. I think it would be a great storyline for the truck series, and we'll say maybe that day is sooner than we were expecting based on how Kyle's Cup career is going right now, and we'll see if Alex's prediction comes true here.
Yeah, RCR might be speeding up the process for us. Hey, we got Iceman comment coming in about JGR.
Yeah, JGR gave Gio Ruggiero a shot in 19 for Daytona and Echo Park / Atlanta. Hopefully those other two races that Cruz can't race there. Yeah, so interesting what's going on with that program as well there. But again, we talked about that after the 19 won the owner's title last year, just going through the roster of everybody. I think Christopher Bell did one race in that car. Chase Briscoe did one race in that car. Ty Gibbs, has continued to do races in that series, and he hasn't been under the restriction because I think you have to have 3 full seasons under your belt before you have the limitations. So we've seen him, even though it's been 5 races for the Cup guys in recent years, you've sometimes seen Ty Gibbs do 7, 8, or 10 in a single season here because he's not limited like that. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. What do we have? Another comment here from Sasquatch Department. Let me address this one. Let me ask you both. When Brexton comes up of age to drive trucks, will Kyle buy one of the trucks back from Spire, or would Kyle establish a one-truck team of his own? That's a good question. I think part of the reason I was kind of taken aback by the sale there was because I always expected him to hold on to that team until Brexton was ready for the truck series at the very least. So to hear what he was selling the program and closing down the truck team was certainly a bit of a surprise to me. I could certainly see him reopening a program like that if he's got the means to do it. But then again, if he's got a great relationship with Spire, they acquired all the old assets from his team anyway. But I could also see him just running the Spire truck, and they could bring an extra truck out for Brexton, and maybe they could share a truck for 1 year. Maybe they could go for an owner's championship together. Who knows?
Yeah, I think he would just stay with Spire. I think he's enjoyed the partnership with them and Chevrolet, and I don't see a reason to bring the KBM name back. I think all of that, like you said, all of that is Spire now. So I think it would stay the same. Yeah,
sorry, the snow plows are still coming through here. I'm trying to keep.
It's okay.
Keep an eye and an ear on that, but. I agree. I don't think it would be because he couldn't. If he wanted to, I think he certainly has the means and the money and sponsorship and would have the support to do that if he desperately wanted his name on the company door again. But I think if he wanted it that badly, he wouldn't have sold it off in the first place here. And I think he's clearly got a great relationship with Spire and with Carson Hocevar, again, one of their Cup drivers as well. Maybe there's a future with those two as teammates beyond just a few races a year in trucks. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly, whether he brings the program back or not, he's certainly an avenue for him to go chase the championship in that series for sure. All right, well, before we move on here to our kind of roundtable discussion about some other things here, Brandon, just one final question to kind of put a cap on this weekend here. The Gluck poll last I checked for the Cup race was somewhere in the 94% range. I think a lot of fans
looking at it right now.
Yeah,
92.6. It's 92.6. 7.4% is no. And Stephen Malozzi tweets, "I did not know Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell fans made up 7% of the entire fan base."
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, I think if you're respect to everybody's opinion, if you're voting no on this poll, I'd love to hear it. Let us know in the chat if you didn't.
Yeah, I'd be checking your pulse.
Feel free. Certainly would be interested to hear that side of the argument. But just absolutely fantastic race. Really across the board, all 3 series. NASCAR
Boy, it was just a great weekend, man.
Yeah,
it needs to be celebrated after the whirlwind we've been through the past few years and the playoffs getting worse and worse. I don't know if it's just that we know the playoffs are gone that races feel a little better, but I don't think that's the case. I think this weekend and somewhat of last weekend too have just been like wildly clean as far as not ridiculous finishes, and it's just wild. And we got Iceman with another comment. I know you're not as much part of grid anymore, but I wonder how Joshua Birch would feel if Kyle went full time in trucks. I think I'm not speaking for him, but I am. I think he would prefer it if he just declared full time points for the Craftsman Truck Series. I think he would feel a lot better about it if it was that way, and not a leech situation. At least that's what I think our good pal Joshua would say.
I'll ask him to get back to you, but I honestly think Josh obviously is from the UK and grew up much more with the European side of things here, and I think there's still a part of him that would maybe still see it as something like Lewis Hamilton dropping back down to run F3. Even if he's doing it full time to win an F3 championship, I feel like that's
it's
kind
a
of
little different than that. Yeah,
Junior
well, formulas.
And I think
right.
If Josh is being honest, he would also understand that it is a little bit. It's not an apples to apples comparison here, but I think that's still kind of what he would associate it with. So I could see where he would potentially still not particularly be a fan of it. But again, for me and myself here, just speaking for myself, would have no problem if he declared full time and said, "This is my series."
Yeah, here in America, going back to trucks is not like putting on the training wheels again, for sure.
Yeah, but again, on that note, for this weekend here, right, the only sentiment that I'm still kind of seeing, and I must confess, I think it is possible to hold these opinions at the same time, because I think I do. I do miss the old Atlanta. I think we desperately needed a repave. I think it was certainly time for that. But I didn't love seeing what we had get turned into a mini Daytona Talladega. Now, on the flip side, I think New Atlanta has aged beautifully. What are we now? 4 or 5? I think 5. This is the 5th year of this configuration.
Gray hairs.
It was 22. Yeah. So yeah, we're almost a half decade into this, and I think
my goodness,
it's very, very good. The product that we're seeing here, the races have been very strong in terms of an entertainment factor, and I think the sentiment is this is what we wish we could see. And I rewatched. I've just because I'm working on my 2007 owner's title video, just rewatched the Daytona race from that year, and Kevin Harvick, was almost pulling away from the rest of the lead lap pack there, and there were only 10 cars in that lead pack. I mean, handling was a massive issue. It was hard to, you had cars drifting high in turn 2 and hitting the wall like.
Bumpy Daytona, man.
Yeah, ESPN booth was saying Steve Wallace had a Darlington stripe on his car because he got in the wall a couple times. David Ruman got up in the wall. I mean, it was handling. I mean, it was so nostalgic, and it reminded me so much of what we saw the last couple times we've been to Atlanta and what we saw again this weekend at Atlanta. And people, I think, are saying this is what we wish we could see today at Daytona or today at Talladega. This is what I wish super speedway racing would look like at those tracks as well. So I kind of see both sides of the argument. I do miss what we used to have with Atlanta. I'm not advocating for us to turn another 1.5 mile track into this. I think what we have at Atlanta is unique and should stay that way. But just real quickly here, Brandon, before we move on, what overall are your thoughts on the current state of what I guess we now have to call Echo Park Speedway for sponsorship reasons, but the new Atlanta, how has it aged about a half decade into this experiment here?
I mean, chef's kiss. It's changed my perspective on the whole reconfiguration of the track. I don't want it anywhere else, though. Thank you. Texas. I just wish they'd put Texas back together. Please don't bank it up. Just put it back together. Make turns 1 and 2 back together again. It's a mess. I mean, it wasn't fantastic when it was original, but it was better than what it is now, but that's just me. But yeah, I think Atlanta, with the way that, like I said, the Georgia sun lays on it every summer, it's made it really nice. And it's a nice novelty to have 2 times a year on the calendar. I really enjoy it. And they used to have talks when they were gonna upgrade the facility like this, that they were gonna have a big like fair or a carnival or something. There was I remember seeing drawings of like a big plan to have like a big midway sort of thing outside the track. Like it was going to be a big big upgrade thing. I wish they would continue that pursuit. I feel like that was like a artist rendering or something like just after COVID or something, whenever this was just an idea of reconfiguring the track. But yeah, I'm really a fan of it now. I wasn't in 22 and in 23 starting out when it was still black asphalt and needing to age a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's improved with age. I think that's a big part of it also. But yeah, it has absolutely won me over, I think. And we were hopeful that handling would become a bigger part of that once we got a few years under our belt here. But yeah, but at the same time, I do understand the sentiment. I think what we had at Old Atlanta was unique and special as well. And we would have lost that to an extent as well with a repave there. I am curious what the old configuration, which was in some ways still certainly the fastest mile and a half. I think, you put the restrictor plates on the cars. It was by some metrics the fastest track in the sport under the old configuration from, what was it, 1997, I believe. And we got 24 years out of that asphalt. So again, it was time, like the track was starting to come apart. It was time for a repave. There's no question about that.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. I wish this could have been, maybe I wish this could have been what they did with Kentucky or what they did after the failed Texas reconfiguration there. But I mean, again, I understand that Atlanta's proud of what they built here, and they should be.
And I am too. Yeah.
Yeah. But
in hindsight,
you do kind of miss, what we used to have there. And I think it's possible to believe both of those two things at the same time.
Yeah. Why couldn't it have been Texas? But, please don't do it to more than one. I know it's inevitable. They probably will, but I kind of, because this is going to get a lot of reception, a lot of positive reception that we're giving it right now. And how those logical steps move, they'll go, well, why not do it to another one? And we'll have 4 of these races a year or 3 of these races a year. That's the short super speedway hybrid.
Yeah. Well, I would not want to see 8 super speedway races a year necessarily. So I think, again, happy that we have what we do here, but we can let Atlanta, have this one and have 2 dates. Because that's the other thing, I guess there's no guarantee, but tracks will have 2 dates, in the future. We've seen Atlanta kind of be on that seesaw in the past. Should have 1 date, should have 2. I think with the current configuration, understandable that they would get a second date there, but we don't need to go past that, in my opinion. All right, I want to move on here. We're going to start kind of our shoot the breeze segment. I want to get a little bit serious here with everybody before we get into some more lighthearted topics here. Obviously, we opened the show with a reference and jokingly saying about Kyle Busch, do you believe in miracles? After he won a truck race. Of course, we're being facetious there because it's hardly a miracle to see Kyle win a Truck Series race. He's won 68 of them. And not a miracle in 2026 either, like it was when we beat the Soviets with our hockey team in 1980. But our men's hockey team in the Olympics yesterday in Milan, getting the job done, winning the gold medal over Canada, getting revenge for the Four Nations tournament last year. And on the heels of what the women's team did a few days earlier, both teams coming away with gold medals, thoroughly deserved, and very proud of both of our teams. I want to make that abundantly clear here before I get into what I'm about to say. Hopefully I don't piss off too many Patriots here, although I'm sure that's inevitable because, like you said, Brandon, when we were talking about the Gluck poll, right? You can't please everybody with anything you say these days, right?
Patriots are going to Patriot.
Yeah. So I just I'm not going to play the full clip here. I'm sure you all have seen by now because it blew up on social media whenever the clip. I started to see it circulate again this afternoon. I think it was right after the men's team won gold, and obviously sometimes it takes a little while. I don't know who originally posted it, but you had the FBI director Kash Patel there, and he had President Trump on the phone. And again, not going to play the full 2 or 3 minutes of the phone call here, but the long story short, President Trump invited the men's hockey team to his State of the Union address tomorrow night, and the team accepted, sounded like fairly unanimously without even giving it much of a second thought. And then Trump made This appeared to be lighthearted comment here, and this is what I'll play for everybody the next 15 seconds or so. It has a lot of women's hockey fans, none too pleased, and we'll play the clip for you here now.
And we have to, I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that. I do believe I probably would be impeached, okay?
Okay, so like I said, he's clearly, you know, I understand it's obviously it's a very lighthearted tone, and you know he's clearly joking around, and the players in the moment getting carried away and laughing at that. I don't think it should be a complete, like, total indictment on them as human beings here. I've seen some people, you know, take it very far in the other direction and say, well, boy, now I wish Canada would have won instead. You know, this is completely like, I don't think that one clip, you know, should dictate how we feel about, you know, these men as individuals or players or anything. But I will just repeat what I not what I tweeted, what I put on my Instagram story here when I saw the clip this afternoon. This is what I said. I always cheer for Team USA, and I am certainly happy our men's team won gold. This does not change that. But this is an awful look for the men's players. 47 is going to 47, but laughing along with his antics is frankly just gross. The women's team has supported the men, and they deserve better. This doesn't make me, quote, wish Canada won or mean I hate America. It's just a call for accountability. Our next generation of women's players is watching. We need to be better than this here. And again, this kind of leads me to a little bit of a bigger talking point that I've seen on social media over the last couple of years in particular. And I've saw it, you know, when the Beijing Olympics were going on and people unhappy with the political ramifications of the Olympics being hosted in China and saying that they weren't going to watch that, and, you know, maybe being critical of Chinese athletes for not speaking up when the Olympics were in their home country. And then those same people 4 years later here, you know, are you know, you've seen some of the things going on, particularly in Minnesota last month. I love the United States of America. Don't get me wrong. I think we have a lot of great things going on in this country right now, but we also have some not so great things that deserve to be remembered and talked about and held to account. And I don't think that simply bringing that up is necessarily a declaration that, you know, you hate the United States, or, you know, if you don't like it here, then I'll help you pack your bags and I'll help you move to Canada so that you can stop being so miserable all the time here. So when I say this about the men's hockey team here, I don't want people thinking that I'm not happy that, I mean, believe me, it's been 46 years, guys. I'm very happy that we finally broke that drought and gave the country something to be proud of. And I am proud of our men's hockey team, but I'm also proud of our women's hockey team. And I can look at this clip here and certainly understand why female hockey fans, and not even just female hockey fans, but I think male women's hockey fans as well, anybody that supports our women's national hockey team as well, wouldn't take too kindly to that. And to be completely fair, you know, because I've seen some people bring this up as well. It sounds like, you know, there were a lot of the men's players that were at the women's games and certainly have shown support from them. And I know Jack and Quinn Hughes's mother is still heavily involved with the women's program for Team USA Hockey and helps build that program up. So again, you know, I don't think that one clip of them laughing necessarily should be like totally indicative of who they are as human beings or people, and that they have absolutely zero respect for women at all or anything. But in the moment, seeing that clip, I don't think it's necessarily the greatest look. And I don't think that, you know, you can look at that clip and call out that behavior and say, you know, guys, you know, there's plenty of young girls that are maybe going to be in the Olympics 20 years from now that, you know, you guys were in their shoes, you know, watching our men come up just short in Vancouver in 2010 and how inspired you were by that team to come back and reclaim the gold 16 years later. You know, young women are watching this, young girls are watching this. And, you know, it's not necessarily the greatest look for them. I don't think that calling that behavior out as maybe not the greatest moment for our men's team in that moment, you know, to jump to conclusions there and say that you all of a sudden, you know, are rooting against or hating on our men's team or wish that they would have lost. And again, I know some people are taking that far, but I don't think it automatically means that, you know, you're not proud to be an American or you hate our country or you should just go leave and move somewhere else. I think that is an incredibly far reach here. And I think that, you know, the quote that always comes to mind for me, because I think but we saw this circulating all throughout the games. Because there are, whether you want to admit it or not, the current administration is very polarizing. There are a lot of things going on in this country right now that have a good amount of our country genuinely concerned and unhappy with the direction things are going. And the quote that comes to mind for me is the Teddy Roosevelt quote: "Patriotism means to stand with the country. It doesn't mean to stand with the president." So you can hold, again, like we were just talking about with the Atlanta situation, you can hold multiple opinions at the same time. I think you can be critical of certain decisions that the government is making and certain things that, your government is saying or your athletes are saying or how your athletes are reacting, while still wearing the red, white, and blue and cheering for Team USA and cheering for the athletes to represent the country well on the world's biggest stage at the Olympics. So again, it's been on my heart to say something about that because, I was a co-host of the Women in Motorsports show at the Grid Network for several years. And, certainly want to make sure, I am very proud, take nothing away from what our men's team did. It's been a long time coming, but this is the second time in 3 Olympics that our women's team has won gold, and they also won gold just this past week. And I think that, especially in light of the men winning the gold medal as well, want to make sure that they don't get lost in the conversation. There's a lot of energy right now with women's sports, and I just heard that the WNBA turned a profit with revenue sharing abilities for the athletes for the first time ever. It sounds like $8 million to be divided among the 13 teams. That's certainly a sign of that league's growth. The PWHL is growing very strongly as well, and I imagine that this momentum and this energy around women's hockey right now is only going to continue to grow that. Just want to make sure that doesn't get lost in the celebration of what our men's team just accomplished. And they do deserve to be celebrated for that, but so does our women's team. And that's
Absolutely.
really what I want to make on that there.
Yeah. I'll just say this. It's frustrating that it's the president of the United States that is making it hard for a lot of the American public to enjoy gold victories just by some loose banter that just gets taken by the masses into what that is. And like, man, I mean, I just wanted to celebrate the men's team winning gold for the first time since 1980. I mean, they made a Disney movie about the last time they got gold against the Soviets. I think that's a big story there, and also the women's team continuing to have success. It's worth celebrating both of them, and take it from a former president, Teddy Roosevelt. It doesn't matter what the president thinks. Yeah. You can still be, have respect for your country and be proud of your country for their accomplishments on the world stage.
Yeah, and I guess we should just say, for the record here, U.S. women's hockey did put out a statement. We are sincerely grateful for the invitation extended to our gold medal winning U.S. women's hockey team and deeply appreciate the recognition of their extraordinary achievement. Due to the timing and previously scheduled academic and professional commitments following the games, the athletes are unable to participate. They were honored to be included and are grateful for the acknowledgement.
That's good. That's good PR.
Yeah,
that's some really good PR.
Well, that's from an ESPN post that the caption says the U.S. women's hockey gold medal winning team has politely declined an invitation from President Donald Trump to attend his State of the Union address Tuesday. I think politely declined is an accurate phrase there to use. But yeah, well, and again, I don't want to I would have to go back. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't remember it happening. I don't want to say for sure one way or the other. I don't believe our gold medal winning team from 2018 received a White House invitation. Maybe they did. I don't want to completely speak on that. I'd have to go back and fact check that. But the other thing that I saw brought up is, he very clearly tacked it on to the end in just there. He called the men's locker room right after they won. Would the women's team have gotten such an invitation if the men hadn't won that gold medal game and had only come away with the silver against Canada? Would the women's team still have been invited? I think that's also a fair question to wonder there. I guess we'll never know. But, I think, again, you can look at all of that as a whole. And again, the Ted Lasso quote that comes to mind for me: be curious, not judgmental, right? Ask questions. Wonder why women's hockey fans are maybe none too pleased with the situation, rather than just brushing it off and saying, and being judgmental and saying, "Oh, you guys are just miserable. You hate this country. Go pack your bags and move somewhere else." Like, I don't like
That's
that.
the wrong spirit too.
Yeah. Be curious, not judgmental. I think we'll leave it at that. Let's catch up on the chat here. Luis says, "I will say this: all the homies in the Pacific Northwest hate Cale Makar. You want to talk about loud boos? Cale got more than Kyle Busch ever did during the 2023 playoffs in Seattle. I guess that's a Kraken player. Actually, Brandon, you have a Seattle Kraken hat, right?
Yeah.
Are you? Is that your hockey team? Would you say? Or
well, it's my second hockey team. It's the hockey team I could watch without a blackout restriction, and also just
would you be a
cable. Yeah, YouTube TV doesn't have regional sports, so can't watch the Preds. So I could watch Seattle. We dumped our ESPN Plus subscription, so not watching Seattle right now. But yeah, they're my second team, right there with you, Luis.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I will fully confess there. Luis says Cale scored the Canada goal and plays for the Avs. I will fully confess hockey and the NHL is certainly of the big four, and I'll even throw I'll say the big five. I'll throw MLS in there because I've certainly picked up that league and watching stars like Messi and Mueller and Son come over in the last few years, and obviously Philadelphia Union have been very good. I love hockey, love watching it, but Flyers have not been very good in recent years, so the NHL is definitely a pretty distant fifth in terms of how familiar I am with what players are on what teams and what's going on in the league. I'll always watch the playoffs, always watch the Stanley Cup final, and of course every 4 years always watch the Olympics. But I will certainly, I'll defer to a couple of Kraken fans on that one, on Luis's comment there. Iceman also bringing up just like Zach Brown's
World Champion hotline.
Yeah. Yeah, that just completely lacked any and all aura last year when Lando won the title. But yeah, I guess that's probably a fair comparison there as well. Well, you want to talk about what didn't lack aura? This is a nice segue into Brandon. I think you wanted to talk about the CW call of the final laps of the Atlanta race and where the current state of NASCAR broadcasting is right now. What did you make of Adam Alexander's call to the line? And what I think was done remotely, right? And I don't think the CW were.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was remotely, unfortunately.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, that might have a case against, us trying to force what we want the TV broadcast network's logistics to be, where you got to be you got to be there every weekend or it's not authentic. I'm a part of that group. I think that, but I'm also not, rolling out their budget every year of who they send where and all that. So, I guess I understand, but man, when you could pull off a call like that, I mean, Saturday, I was already telling you, Ben, Emmy-nominated, award-winning quality call there at the end for Adam Alexander, Jamie McMurray, and Parker Kligerman. What a combo. And Adam Alexander at the top of his game as far as being in the booth. And I've just been saying it all over X since it happened. Like, it's amazing what the power of moving from one broadcast network to another can make someone sound completely different. It's like like Adam Alexander at Fox and Adam Alexander at the CW are like two different double A's. Like to me, he sounded like it felt like he was very limited at Fox. Like maybe he wasn't allowed to be, I guess wasn't allowed to have fun. But at the CW, like I'm pretty sure the producers encouraged them to bust out laughing about a joke at least once every 20 laps. That's what it feels like anyway. Like they're up there having a great time on a Saturday afternoon, and it's obvious that it's authentic too. Like they enjoy each other's company. They're just three dudes watching a race, but they're professional about it too. They get you to the facts. They get you to the concise information. And I think Fox is doing a pretty good job at that too, starting 2026. And you can attest to me telling you that. I think that they get maybe a B- on their coverage so far this year. And I think that might be some change in the producers and directors behind the scenes coming into the new year as well. But yeah, CW, they put on a really great call. And I think the majority of NASCAR Nation thinks so too.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying. Thank you for bringing your tweet up. I'm trying to pull that up for us now here. You were responding to my editor-in-chief, Brock Beard. And this is what Brock had to say. I've been one of Adam Alexander's biggest critics, but I say this with no hesitation. He absolutely crushed this call. This is even better than his play-by-play of Brendan Poole's near win at Talladega, and it's right up there with the greats of the past storylines. And I will pull it back up here because it got cut off. Storylines and excitement in the moment. You cannot ask for more. And then Brandon, you responding to that by saying it's amazing to me what a change of production crew can do for a talented broadcaster. One of the all-time great calls. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you'll be able to use that call in all your production material, and that's the kind of thing you want.
And Iceman adding here, unlike Fox truck coverage, CW is produced by NASCAR Productions. Granted, IndyCar's Fox coverage is produced by IndyCar, which is interesting considering how both Fox Cup and Truck are produced by Fox. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Fox IndyCar booth is here when we come back for St. Pete here this week, and how much crossover there might be. And Fox is really Will Buxton really is going all in on this deal here with this new podcast that he started. The Speed Name is back with Kevin Harvick and Will Buxton. That show that they're going to be doing. Yeah, that brings back a lot of nostalgia there.
That's going to be a hit.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's going to be good. But I'm with you. I think this is the best start to a year that Fox has had in a while. And Mike Joy is as strong as he's ever been.
It's true.
Or at least almost as strong as he's. I know some people have said, it sounds like maybe he's closer to the end. He's definitely closer to the end of his.
Well, that doesn't matter. He's still and he's still got it. And hats off to him for continuing on as long as he has.
Yeah. When he is on his game, his calls are, definitely as good as they've ever been, and absolutely nailed the Daytona 500 call with everything that was going on. I think
always been a natural talent.
Yeah. Yes. And again, I think, Kevin Harvick is very articulate, certainly knows his stuff. Still don't know how I feel about Boyer sometimes in the booth. I think he's got a little bit of the Tony Romo tendencies at times here, but
I think he's better this year. I think he is.
I agree. I think they all are. I think, and that to me signals a change on the production side of things.
In leadership and direction. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're seeing that as well with Adam Alexander over at the CW. I think what they have going over there, excuse me, is very strong, and that booth is just again firing on all cylinders, 100%.
I think it's not so much the talent sometimes, lack of ability. It might be the people yelling in their ear every 5 seconds that might make the change, because we have no clue how much information is being fed into their earpiece throughout the whole event.
For sure. All right. Well, speaking of Harvick, I guess we should talk about his son. You were teasing this as well, Brandon. We were talking about Brexton Busch earlier. Now let's talk about Keelan Harvick, and a bit of a shocker here. I don't think anybody had this on their bingo card. Toyota signing him to their racing development program. I thought for sure that he was totally set in the Hendrick pipeline, and Chevrolet appears to have fumbled this clear deal that they had going for them big time here. What is your reaction to this announcement today? Keelan Harvick going to be a Toyota driver, at least for the very beginning of his young career here.
Yeah, it's big to be signed with Toyota. It's kind of strange, though, a departure from Kevin Harvick's path, but Keelan's not Kevin. So he's going to make his own racing career here, and Toyota has a fantastic development process. The way they take young talent through and get them all the way to the top levels, but whether he switches manufacturers throughout the way, that's always a possibility. But I think that's fantastic. We finally got him signed somewhere, and Brexton might be with Chevrolet as he goes up, or he might get a deal of a similar caliber somewhere else. We don't know, but yeah, big news for Keelan Harvick, and the future is growing up around us for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I just pulled up the NASCAR.com article, and they have him in his HendrickCars.com fire suit and hat and everything. And yeah, very, very surprising announcement today. Really definitely caught me off guard here, but they have this quote from what I assume is just, it said Harvick here. I assume this is Keelan talking here. I'm really grateful to have this kind of opportunity with Toyota Racing Development, to have their support and be able to represent ExxonMobil. It doesn't get much better. I'm still getting experience, but it's going to be a privilege to be a part of the TRD program and learn from the other drivers. And again, he's still only 13 years old. So, you know, a lot can certainly change here as he continues his development path forward. But he does say this is a, quote, long-term commitment. So sounds like they will be supporting him throughout his journey through late models and the Cars Tour, I suppose. And I guess just doing the math here, he's only 13. It could be as early as 2028 that we see him in an ARCA East car, potentially, or ARCA West. I guess maybe his dad has his name on the Kern racetrack's official title now, right? Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway. So maybe that would be where we see him make his ARCA platform debut in a couple of years. But yeah, it would be very interesting to see what comes of that. But that's probably the biggest surprise of the day in terms of news that broke. Keelan Harvick, now a Toyota driver. Not sure how many people had that on their bingo cards, but Iceman has a comment here. I would assume the ExxonMobil partnership is mainly what drove Keelan towards Toyota, considering Kevin's Mobil One sponsorship after he moved over from SHR. Yeah, that could be a possibility too. You never know when those connections are going to come back here. Well, okay, Brandon, forgive me. I'm going to jump around. I'm going to go to the F1 bullet point first here, because I think we had a comment from Luis earlier tonight. I don't know if Luis is still in here. I see we still got a few people watching, so thank you for that. But he says, I could see Alonso retiring before KFC.
Yeah, I could too. Man, Aston Martin is in a terrible place.
You want to talk about, I mean, this is a guy that they dragged possibly one of the worst Ferraris in history to a near championship a couple of times. And then 2014, the car that we always said would oversteer and understeer at the same time. And then he says, enough of that. I'm going to go to McLaren. Sebastian Vettel comes into Ferrari, immediately starts winning a few races. He's the only one who can take the fight to Mercedes. And McLaren Honda is absolutely dreadful. He's got the GP2 engine and everything. And then he decides, screw the 2017 season, where it's already a lost cause. I'm going to go to Indy. And he gets a great ride with Andretti, Honda-powered car. He blows an engine at the Indy 500, eventually steps away from F1 entirely. And then Honda signs a deal with Red Bull, and then they go and win a bunch of championships with Max Verstappen. I guess they won the first in 21, and then it kind of became Red Bull powertrains after that, right? But still a lot of the Honda personnel as a part of that. And then he goes to Aston Martin. Aston Martin signs this deal with Honda. They bring Adrian Newey in to the program as the regulations change, and now look where we are. You can't write this stuff, can you?
No, can't script it. Yeah, Fred Nando Lonzo has been through so much. Yeah, I definitely could see him getting out early. Well, not early, but here soon. Luis, Aston Martin was cursed from the jump. Their car unveil was a disaster. Took them 3 or 4 times to restart the thing from the beginning.
Yeah, well, that unfortunately might have set the tone for their entire season here. Again, it's still just testing. It's still just preseason. We'll have to wait and see, but it's not very promising here. All this talk about how Adrian Newey's going to come in and work a miracle, and Lance Stroll's going to be a championship contender. It looks like it's had just the opposite effect here to start the 2026 season, but we'll see. Still some time here before the results start to count for good here. But Iceman says, here's a guy who can't catch a fill in the blank break here. What did Fernando partake during his past life to deserve this, or at latest after his first 2 championships? Yeah, it's been 20 years since he won those 2 titles, and still looking for his third after all these.
You want to talk about the money team? Aston Martin, that's the money team. There's a lot of money thrown down the drain in that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll come back to F1 in just a second here. Real quick, Brandon, what are some way too early IndyCar Series predictions here? Because we have that season starting at St. Pete here as the calendar rolls to March. Obviously, big deal this weekend having the NASCAR trucks there for the first time in the crossover. We're going to see Dario Franchitti back in the truck. Jimmy Johnson's going to be on the pit box as his crew chief in that Dollar Tree #1 Toyota for Tricon Garage. Big deal this weekend for them, but also obviously for IndyCar kicking off their season. I gotta confess, man, it's still the state of the series right now. It's hard for me to get into it. The Roger Penske era has left a lot to be desired for me. I'm gonna try to watch as much as I can this year. I know I kind of took a year off last year. Definitely gonna watch the 500 and see what comes of that. But I must confess, I probably am in a position to defer to you again for some of the bigger predictions or hotter takes that you might have here. So what are some thoughts that you have heading into this season for IndyCar?
Oh, I was really hoping you would have some things to support here. I mean, I mainly was going to just talk about Will Power and going to Andretti Global, and that.
Well, that's huge.
I mean, that's such a huge change of the landscape. And also someone getting a deal with Remax. I forgot what car that was in my feed. One of those teams getting that livery put out today, and it looks rather nice. Reminiscent of the ARCA Remax series of old.
It looks like that would be Meyer Shank.
Meyer Shank Racing.
Quick Google searches.
Yeah.
So that would be.
So you got Felix Rosenquist at the Sirius XM car with the different channels, and then you got
Marcus Armstrong. It looks like
Armstrong. Yeah.
This I'm on Remax's site here. The brand, the press release says the brand will also be represented on the number 06, driven by four-time Indy 500 winner Elio Castroneves. Yeah, so
that would make a great Indy 500 winning car.
That is certainly big. Yeah. Drive for Five still alive there. That is certainly
alive.
Something that I'm going to be looking at here. Iceman says entry list says Jeremy Donnelly. That it might is I don't know if that's the official. I don't know if you got that from Jayski or NASCAR statistics here, but I definitely remember seeing that was a big deal. There were certainly some posts about that. Sometimes the entry lists get preliminary information and then those things change here. Like you'll see an entry that comes in there that we all know it has been withdrawn. The announcement has been set that they've withdrawn, but they still show up on the entry list. This I'm getting a couple of hits here. Just typing it in here quickly. This is from Jayski on the 22nd, yesterday at 5 p.m. Jimmy Johnson steps into crew chief role for Dario Franchitti at St. Petersburg. Johnson confirmed to Above the Yellow Line Media, shout out Taylor Kitchen, on Sunday that he will be working atop the pit box for Dario Franchitti when the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races in St. Petersburg on February 28th. Franchitti is driving the number 1 Tricon Garage Toyota in his first NASCAR start since 2008. And quote from Johnson here, never done anything like this before. I'm checking off new opportunities, so it's going to be fun. So we'll see how that goes here. Worked out quite well for Dale Jr. When he did it, right? When Connor Zillich went to Big Wheel. Yeah. So who knows? Probably let's keep our expectations in check here. I don't know if Dario is going to win the race here at St. Pete. It's been a long time since he's been in a car at all.
A car, yeah.
2013 was when his IndyCar career came to an end. Even longer for a stock car. So
yeah, he's been commentating for Formula E during this time. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go back to F1 here. Apple TV, obviously the new U.S. partner. Going to be interesting again. Like we said, we've had this discussion on the Encore show in the past year. I don't know, Brandon. Do you have any thoughts on what this might do here? I know you picked up the Apple subscription, right? I mean,
we did.
Yeah. They used to have the separate season pass subscription for MLS. That's now gone away.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is certainly a good thing. But it sounds like they want to renegotiate a little bit sooner. It sounds like they cut the last 3 years off of the 10-year deal, but they originally signed so that they can MLS. Speaking about them here, they can go back into the market potentially to renegotiate after a little bit sooner than they were originally expecting here. I think it's a 5-year deal, if I remember correctly, that Apple signed with Formula One. So you would expect that they would probably see that through to the end. But I don't know, man. There's been a lot of momentum with the whole ESPN deal simulcasting with Sky Sports. And the biggest thing for me, I keep saying, if you go to a bar, and I'm talking I know most people aren't going to the bar at 8 a.m. for European races, right? But you say you're in Austin, right? If you're in Texas, you're in Miami, you're in Vegas, it's late at night, you want to flip on the F1 race. It's a lot easier to say, can you flip to ESPN than it is to say, okay, can you go to Apple TV? Can you launch that? I'll sign in. I'll give you.
Here's my login. Can you get us on Apple? Can you download that on the Roku and then get us on Apple TV and then go to the live broadcast of the race?
And hope you got a good internet connection and it doesn't stop buffering. Right?
Yeah.
Like
meanwhile, I could go to the Mexican restaurant down the road and say, "Hey, put it on Fox. NASCAR's on."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There we are.
Yeah,
in Formula One in the United States was, the rise of it as we see it to today has been through this ESPN deal. And I just wanted to get it mentioned one more time through preseason on this show before we actually get to Australia. I just wanted to throw that topic in there one more time so we could just have it covered. Like, what do you guys think about the Apple TV deal? How is that going to work for American fans? How have you seen it with other Formula One fans here in the States that you know of? How are they dealing with it? I'm concerned how that's going to go for their steady climb, or is it going to stall, or am I really just way out in left field? Are people just so in with it now with the streaming services that it's like MLS? It's not that big of a deal. The niche is going to find a way. But like your casual go-lucky fan, I don't know if they will.
Yeah, well, again, I go back to where MLS is right now, and they had their opening weekend this week, and by some measures, certainly a resounding success. I mean, you had over 75,000 people in the LA Coliseum to watch Inter Miami and Lionel Messi take on LAFC and Sung Ho Min and Hugo Lloris. I mean, my goodness, the national team captains from the two teams in the last World Cup final are both in our league in the United States. I mean, that is crazy to think about here as we come up on hosting the World Cup this summer. But Messi in particular has been here for almost 3 years now, and it's moved the needle a little bit. I feel like, I mean, I watched pardon the interruption today. And that was one of the final segments talking about Inter Miami losing their opening game 3-0. And, would you be concerned about that? And so they're talking about it a little bit. Messi's certainly a big enough name, but I don't know that it has moved the needle as much as people expected it would for a country that has a lot of soccer fans, has a lot of Lionel Messi fans, but has struggled to captivate Major League Soccer fans. And I think being behind that paywall on Apple, and at least now it's not a paywall behind a paywall. It's just...
That's better, but still.
Yeah, streaming service that you've got here, and you've got access to all the games.
As a casual soccer fan, I previously didn't feel like paying for Apple TV to watch MLS. Like, it just didn't make any sense.
Yep. And
what makes the F1 deal so great is that the majority of the content you can have access to is not on Apple TV itself. It's on F1 TV as it normally was. It's just you use your login for Apple TV to get to F1 TV, and I think that's the big difference for the F1 side.
Yeah, well, Iceman, I agree. In the long run, I think it'll work. I just hope they don't intersect with Apple's garbage shows here. Well,
the selection is not great.
Yeah. Well,
besides Severance and Ted Lasso, like, what else is there?
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple diamonds in the rough there. A couple of documentaries I think that are pretty good that might be worth watching.
Also, every single show feels like it has to be TVMA. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's almost a requirement these days.
Wish that things could be a little more family friendly sometimes. I mean, I get that too, but and listen, I get, like, Apple had a big role in the F1 movie that was very successful, and by all accounts, it sounds like we're getting a sequel to that. Be funny if they call that F2, right? I hope that it's. I hope that there's maybe there's a young driver coming along that they can talk about their journey through the development. I don't know. We'll see what they do with that. But
Colton Hurd a cameo. It's all coming together.
Yeah, there you go. So I certainly understand why they're doing it. And I understand that, for the diehard F1 fans, I'm cautiously optimistic that it will be something that is good coverage for us that's worth watching. And I don't know if MLS fans would agree with this or not. I'm not on MLS Twitter necessarily, so to speak, as much as I am NASCAR Twitter, but I really enjoy the MLS 360 coverage that Apple's put together. I love Taylor Twellman. I think he's one of the best analysts in sports right now. But I think again for the casual fans, and that's been a part of, NASCAR chased the casual fan, and it ended up being a mistake, and they pushed the diehards away. F1, I think, was able to captivate the casual fan because of the marketing that they did, just being themselves and putting themselves out there with a Netflix documentary and seeing the energy rise from that. I think in a lot of ways, they're making the same mistakes that NASCAR made when NASCAR had its boom period in the mid 2000s. I don't know. It has me concerned that the growth that we've seen is, at the very least, like it's been going like this and it's going to flatline. I just hope that it doesn't, we've got a subscription service and, start to tank like that because people don't want to pay for something that they used to get over cable television for, not for free, I guess. You still have to have a streaming platform that offers the channel like a YouTube TV or something, or traditional cable. But, but I take, I'm going to take that back, because you could still get, there's 4 or 5 races a year that are on ABC over the air. So,
yeah,
it was, all that to say, it was much more accessible than I think it's going to be for people that aren't. Again, I've had Apple TV for a long time. Luis says here, Studio and Severance for me are my favorites. I've yet to see Ted Lasso. I've had Apple TV ever since they dropped Ted Lasso, and I haven't canceled the subscription. I've had that subscription ever since. So for me, it's fine. I'll log. It'll be a new method for me to get to the race. But for the casual fans, I think, do you really want to? If you don't already have Apple TV, do you really want to pay for another streaming service? And even if you do, if you're a more casual fan, are you going to go through the trouble of logging into a subscription service just to tune to a live sporting event? I think it's a fair question to be asked. So Iceman also saying here, we don't need people who don't care about F1 showing up to races for free or even paid to show up, when people who actually care about the sport can barely go to an F1 race. Yeah, well, there's that too. The ticket prices are certainly out of control there. Excuse me. And you do wish that it would be made a little bit more accessible to the common man, so to speak. But to clarify the comment I made when I said I hope they don't intersect with Apple shows. Okay, so we've got that clarification there. I think we understood what you meant from the first time there. But and Luis adding, curious how the one show with Elle Fanning and Nicole Kidman will turn out soon, though. So yeah, I mean, we could spend a whole nother hour on that subject alone. The whole subscription cable TV landscape here. I do want to make sure we wrap the show up here. Again, thank you all for sticking with us. I always say this. It's crazy how quickly the time can go by here. We say we want to do our best to keep the show to an hour.
Well, I may have added some extra comments that brought us over, so I'll put that on me. Yeah, that's
all right, man. There's a lot to talk about here the first 2 weeks, and I'm glad that we were able to do that here tonight. But before we go here, real quick, while we're on the subject of MLS, well done, Ty Baribo, put a knife in the heart of us Philadelphia Union fans here, scoring the only goal of the DC United Union game. So hopefully the Union can turn that around here and bounce back from the early season loss. And then finally, some quick updates for you all. Thank you for the support from the recent videos I've uploaded. Finally got the Carney Wilson unstapled video done and out of the way. Thankful to not have that one still on my list. Can finally check that off now. More game show stuff still in the works. I've teased that multiple times, I think, for you all. I'm starting to work on a new series and develop that. But biggest project for me right now is working, like I said earlier tonight, on the Owners Championship battle from 2007. Definitely in the process of rewatching those races and trying to put that story together. That's going to be a Brock Beard kind of runtime. Probably going to be a couple of hours once it's all said and done here, or if not a couple of hours, at least over an hour in length. Definitely want to make sure I cover the story from all angles here and cover it in as great a detail as possible. So that one's going to take a while, but I'm actively working on it as we speak. So you can stay tuned for that and much more. We're going to be back here next Monday night and all throughout the season here with more episodes of Motorsport Monday. So make sure you all stay tuned for that as well. That's all I pretty much have for tonight, Brandon. I don't know if you have any final thoughts before we wrap the show up here, but good second week for us here. I think we're still trying to find our rhythm a little bit with this new format, and I know you said we'll work on getting a proper background for us. It's not just
we'll dress it up.
Yeah, the void here for everybody. But any final thoughts before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for sticking around here in the live, watching it live here with us. And Circuit of the Americas coming up. The last weekend without Formula One for 2026 and these new regulations, and a lot of things ramping up here in the month of March. And can't wait to bring it to you here on Motorsport Monday. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to this weekend, kicking off the American Open Wheel Racing season. Indy Next is going to be in St. Pete alongside the IndyCar Series. And obviously NASCAR trucks for the first time on a street course, joining the IndyCar Series in St. Petersburg. And then O'Reilly and Cup turning left and right as well at Circuit of the Americas. So certainly a change from what you've seen the last 2 weeks on the drafting tracks of Daytona and Atlanta. But we'll get into the heart of a NASCAR season here soon enough, and starts this weekend at COTA. Lots to look forward to, and we'll bring it all to you next week on Motorsport Monday. What is this now? 166 and 3/8 of an hour break here. We're at an hour 37 so far.
It continues.
Quick math in my head here, but we'll see you next week to bring you all of that. In the meantime, for Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time right here on another Motorsport Monday. Have a good one, everybody.